Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Donovan.
And I'm Jordan.
Join us as we go into the pages.
Podcast!
What you flexing?
Just stretching.
Oh. Welcome back to this episode. To another episode.
Another episode.
Oh, I saw a bit of news that made me sad. I saw it was like a TikTok on Brandon's page, and someone had asked him when we can expect to get Stormlight 6. Even though we're still a year away from getting Stormlight 5. Apparently, we have to wait like 10 years. This is what Brandon said is 10 years which
Luckily,
really sucks.
Luckily, though, I think it's going to be like a new arc, like almost like Stormlight Era 2. So I think we'll still get the conclusion of our current story and current characters. Just have to wait for another story.
Yeah,
in
so
Rosha.
you think like Kaladin and Dalinar and Adel and all them are going to be gone? They'll be dead.
Probably. Maybe their Spren will be around. Like
That'd be cool.
The Spren it does mention they rebond knights when their other knight dies. So I mean,
That'd be really interesting to
that's
see
possible.
Syl and Pattern bond someone else.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, at least we do have other things to look forward to, like more Elantris books and possibly a Arithmetist sequel and all that stuff.
That would be good. I'm looking forward to the Elantris one. You still haven't read Elantris, so
Nope.
Listen out.
So many other things to read, especially this year with all the secret projects. I'm busy. Rebecca was right. Well, we get to follow up with exactly what the Cinder King, what Zellion said they were going to show the Cinder King. Give him an actual battle. And I love how this chapter starts off with Beacon totally blasting the crap out of Union.
Yep. Welded together the ships. We get to see the Cinder King learns firsthand the power of surprise, and when someone has new/better tech and weapons. Because they just came and did a completely different warfare. Like I think up to this point it was just flying around and snipers trying to shoot with rifles. But now it's just like
Now it's like, hey, you can actually
huge cannons.
get big cannons.
So they blast through, but they have an interesting strategy because they still don't know where this supposed refuge is, which we learned later on. Zellion was absolutely correct. It's a scientist lab, not a.
It's not a refuge.
It's definitely like a long term. Like they say, it can maybe hold 24 people, so 24 people, like relatively comfortably. But if you add in the population of Beacon, like 130, like I think it's 130, 150 people.
I think it's down to like 135 or something like that.
Yeah, definitely won't work. Or at least they'll be very crammed if they do it. But yeah, so their strategy, since they don't know where it is they blast through the Cinder King's defenses and then just full throttle, pretending they know where to go. And their strategy works, which we find out is Zellion was banking that the Cinder King deep down is very unsure. Or I guess not unsure, like nervous or insecure, I guess is maybe a better word. Cinder King assumes that they know where the refuge is and they're going right for it. And so he speeds off to try to beat them there, and then they end up just following him right there. So,
Which ends up being even worse for the Cinder King later, too.
But the Cinder King races off. They're not able to follow exactly because they get attacked by some Chard. But some pretty cool things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Elegy gets more trust and a little bit more growth. But basically, Zellion needs someone to help him fight, even though he's no longer has the torment. He still needs backup, someone to watch his back against all these super highly invested Chard people.
Yeah, it seems like he's allowed to defend himself now, but not kill in the defense of himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he did something that I was surprised, since, going through the Stormlight Archive, it seemed like just shard blades were so coveted and so sacred and rare and powerful things that, like, the last thing you would do is like, here, use my shard blade.
Yeah, but he gives it to her almost because, well, I think it is exactly because she lacks training, because she lacks finesse. The shard blade, you just
You do
hack.
not need finesse.
And so she's able to do so, and it's pretty good for her. She's able to control herself. Last time she was released, she immediately attacked Zellion, like, no hesitation. And when she released this time, she even said, like, I'm not ready, I can't do this. And he's like, you'll never be ready, just do it. And when Zellion releases her, she immediately jumps up and, like, goes toward him aggressively, but then she stops. And then they're able to go outside and fight. And she still lacks control, though. It's not like all of a sudden she's some expert warrior. She's still...
Yeah, she's just been like she's a person who was like given extra strength. She's stronger than an average human now. But that's pretty much it. And the lust for fighting, but no training or at all. I don't even think like the Cinder King has any sort of training. They all just have the lust for fight and have a little bit bigger muscles.
Yeah. But still, she does her job, because I think a lot of the Charred remember Zellion, or maybe even have specific orders to go for Zellion, because they kind of focus on him initially. And then about Elegy with she has a shard spear, and so I don't know why I didn't form it into a sword, but that's a spear. And she's kind of going crazy, and she still lacks control. Like, he's like, hey, calm down. And she's like,
That's probably what it was.
She's like freaking out. And then Ox even mentions, he's like, maybe I'll blunt myself, because she repeatedly stabbed a Charred. Like, she stabbed him once, then his eyes burned, and then she stabbed and was doing damage to the ship beneath the Charred. And they're like, calm down. And Ox was like, oh, I'll try to blunt myself if she tries to stab through someone again. And then we get the next piece of strategy, which was pretty smart. So we get, I guess Zellion, we already know he's pretty smart, but he also has some battle savvy, because he was able to fabricate cannons, as we saw, but he was also able to plan for this next part, which was knowing that the Charred and the Cinder King's forces would go for initially the gunships. And he even says, like, people often aim for the defenses first, as if there was some kind of hierarchy you're supposed to follow. So he's seen it so often, he just knows it's going to happen, especially with inexperienced people. And so they have all the citizens not on the gunship. So there's like 3 gunships, I think, that have the cannons mounted. And there's only 2 people on those. And so when the Charred attack there, they are really defenseless and they are vulnerable. And Elegy and Zellion kind of try to manage it. They jump from ship to ship and they're fighting and they're going crazy and doing all sorts of things. But
the ships must be closer than I was thinking, because I'm thinking like a space battle that's going crazy and like everyone's flying every which way, but they're just going like straight, so they're just able to jump back and forth.
But we find
like
out
Jedi.
We find out that the Charred strategy is a little different than they would expect, because the Charred are usually just point and go beat it up until it's dead. But they actually have a semblance of a plan. They basically jump on a ship, plant bombs, and jump off, and then the bombs blow up. And they take out one gunship doing that. And then a lot of the fight's kind of focused on Zellion trying to prevent them from doing it to other ships. He saves Zeal and Jeffrey, and just going doing all these things. And we also get a little more, some more wind spren / armor pieces. The spren that make up the armor.
Yeah, that made me hopeful that we will see Zellion get his full shard plate.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet. I mean, why else would they be randomly showing up now?
Yeah. Maybe they'll also just show up. I don't know.
We do get a piece of art in chapter 42 that I think is kind of funny. When I first saw this, I thought it was like Elegy going after the Cinder King, but it's just another Charred. But I love how she's just like diving at him with the spear, ready to just kill him, and Zellion's sitting there like, ugh.
That was kind of cool how he saved Jeffrey. So there was when you jump on the ship, that's when they see all the bombs being planted and all the Charred jumping off, and so Zellion grabs Jeffrey, forms Ox into a shield and puts it over the bomb.
Oh yeah,
and sits on top of it and like explodes them off, and like catapults them. And luckily they land on another ship.
He probably aimed a little bit.
But they ram into the Dawn Chaser, And it breaks a few of Jeffrey's ribs, but hey, at least he'll survive. And that's when we see the fragments of the Windspren appear, and I think it's because deep down his oath. It almost seems like the more he follows his old oaths as a Windrunner, the more the armor starts to appear.
Yeah. This kind of struck something with me. I was thinking, how do the Spren, how did they just get there? Were they just, because if there's not like a place you can enter this world from Shadesmar, how did the Spren show up with it? Is it kind of like one of those things with, are they just always around him and waiting for him, like kind of like Ox is?
Maybe once they turn into armor, they follow him.
That would make
everywhere.
sense.
I don't know.
I like that explanation. Otherwise, it's like, how the crap?
Yeah. So yeah, 43 was pretty good. It was really fast, or 42, really fast-paced battle. Gets us into 43, and the battle's starting to wind down at least a little bit. The initial shock of it, where they punch through the defenses, and now they're following the Cinder King, trying to figure out where he's going. And we get Elegy grows a little bit more. I think she's just starting to think. So I think Zellion did a good job of not just spoon feeding her, but he just told her, like, find a purpose, like, think for yourself. And then you can kind of feel her trying to do that, or starting to do that in these chapters. For example, like when she jumps onto the Dawn Chaser after fighting some Shard, and she's able to hold herself back because she really wants to. Once the Shard are all defeated, she wants to keep seeking after the battle, but she's able to not, and then goes and joins Rebecca instead. And Rebecca smiles at her, and that kind of has an impact on Elegy, because Elegy's kind of like, oh, that was nice.
She's too used to people, I guess.
Let's see, what was the exact word? Like, I think it's just kind of like, she said, like, almost inspiring to see that happen, to see that Rebecca looked up to Elegy that much, and I think it changed her a little bit. And also later on in the chapter, she's even mentioning, like, that she wants to be in the thick of a fight, and even if it means that the fight is her getting just blasted to crap and getting killed, she's like, at least it'll be a struggle. But then she's like, oh wait, no, I can't think like that, I'll get killed if I do that. And then she says, after all, and she's like, well, it says, wait, no, that might get her killed. She was supposed to want to avoid that. After all, who would make certain Rebecca smiled if Elegy died? A conundrum. So she's starting to, I think, find her external purpose that Zellion was always going for, pushing her towards, saying you got to fight for some other reason than just to fight. So I bet she'll end up fighting, like, be the guardian of Beacon or something.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking she will keep growing, and eventually she might even get to a point where she's not always battle hungry. Maybe she'll get to maybe a normal space again. Maybe not get her memories back, but maybe she'll at least get to a point where she's not like, I need to fight. Wait, I need to fight. No, calm down. I need to fight. You know. I wonder if this whole battle in her head will eventually kind of go down enough to where she doesn't have to consciously, like, wait, I shouldn't do that.
That'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm thinking, like, for a long time after this, like years after this stuff happens too, even like after they're done fighting the Cinder King and crap, maybe they'll decide to release her to the next enemy and whatever, so she will be a guardian of the people and stuff. Maybe she'll be like the first chief of the military or something.
She'll lead the charge. She'll be like, I'll be your leader. The Cinder King makes his second battle mistake, and I guess the whole planet has made this mistake, basically. But the Cinder King beats them, of course, to where the actual refuge, the door is, to the science lab. And his people land and surround it. And everyone in Beacon's like, oh, we can't land and fight because they'll just shoot us. And Zellion's like, you guys gotta be freaking kidding me. Like, you've spent your whole life on these spaceships and you don't even know air battles. Like, watch this. And so he takes control of one of the airships, one of the gunships that have the cannons mounted to it, and then just flies over and just strafes the people, just blasts them to heck. And they're like, oh, wow. Like, I can see the advantage of if something can move really fast and the other people are on the ground, you're pretty much just immobile while they just blast the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So, kind of sucks for the Chard and other Cinder Kings people, but good lesson for everyone.
Yeah. They didn't land all of Union down there, though, did they?
No, it's just the advance force that flew ahead with the Cinder King, which I don't know if it says explicitly, but I'm sure it was all Chard.
I'm sure. I don't know why he would be.
And maybe some
regular
pilots. I don't think
Yeah,
pilots.
yeah,
I
maybe some
don't think
pilots.
Chard are pilots. They're kind of just brute warriors. But yeah, they chase off the Cinder King and his people, and then they use the plate they found to make contact. And Zellion was right. A thing comes up and his Scadrian's like, "What do you want?" And then we learned something very interesting.
Yes.
That has groundbreaking flippin'.
Makes you think about what's going on in the rest of the Cosmere.
Yeah, so he says, under the refugee and lost expatriate bill of Silverlight Codes of Interplanetary Conduct, I formally request asylum in this facility. And so there's like, one, there's this interplanetary conduct. There's rules between different planets and like battles and stuff.
Yeah,
And
they've got like some governing something out there that's bigger than just a planet that
yes.
covers
And
multiple planets.
And the Scadrians have this thing that pops up, and they're able to communicate back and forth. And they know that he's Rosharan. He's like, "Wait, you're a Rosharan?" And he's like, "Yes, I seek asylum." And then they mention that people need these people need protection, and the Scadrians shoot something at the Cinder King, kind of like a warning shot, like back the heck off, and it scares them off. And then they're able to go down into the whatever the hell.
into the not a refugee.
Yeah. And then before they go, though, Zellion kind of goes up to Elegy, and he's like, "In case I don't make it out of here, you're going to have to protect these people." And she's like, "What do you mean? What's going to go poorly? Like, you're going to fight these people?" And then he's like, "Not physically. I'm pretty sure I could beat them," which is an interesting thought process. Like, who do you think would win? A Mistborn or a Night Radiant? I think a Night Radiant.
I definitely think.
I think any Night Radiant. Well, maybe not any Night Radiant. I would say specifically a Windrunner, or what's the other order that can fly? The one that Zeth joins. I don't remember what they're called.
I didn't know there was another order.
Did you even read Storm?
I don't think I did.
Actually, remember, so because like a lot of the orders kind of overlap. Like they'll share power with one other order, and there's another order that shares the gravity power with the Windrunners. And that's the one where the
I don't remember this name.
That's happened last time. Herald. The Herald that's still like active and still
Okay.
doing stuff. And you remember he goes around, and anyone who manifests like they're about to bond to Spren, he kills them. And then Zeth joins them. And his first trial is they go to that lake and they have to find the criminals.
Right, I remember that.
And he has night blood and he kills the dude.
Yeah.
And then he swears his I don't know if it's his second or third ideal, but he swears that he has to swear to a higher power than himself to serve it and uphold it. And the rest of the order swears to the fused, but Zeth swears to Dalinar.
I remember that too. Yeah.
And that's the other order. So anyways, my point is, I think those two orders would have the best chance against the Mistborn, mainly because a Mistborn can throw coins and zip around, and so ground-bound knights would have.
Yeah. I wonder how much would a coin really do? A coin, how much damage could a coin shot do?
I think they could fling it because they fling it with their, if they really anchor themselves and really push it, especially if they have Duralium, I think it would at the very least after a few hits be able to break through Shardplate. But I do think that Shardplate would offer a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Because it just enhances your overall strength. It like just beefs up everything about you. Shard blades are unblockable. They're unmanipulatable by metallurgy.
They're not something an elementary can get to.
And so, or allomancy. I think it's metallurgy. I don't think it's metallurgy. It's allomancy. Anyway. And so I do think in the long haul, if you take if you take a Night Radiant who's sworn the fourth ideal and has trained all his life, and a Mistborn who's trained all their life, and put them together, I think the Night Radiant would have a higher chance of winning.
Yeah, if it like Kaladin in with his armor faced off against Vin, and just like a spar, I think Kaladin would come on top.
Yeah. Just because of the pure advantage of shard plate and a shard blade.
Yes.
I think if you were to take away the shard plate, though, it would be. I think the Mistborn would have a much higher chance of winning.
Yeah.
So I think the Mistborn. That's why I'd say the groundbound knights probably wouldn't have much of a chance, because the Mistborn would just stay in the air and just repeatedly throw coins or metal at them until their armor broke, and then just keep pounding at them until their stormlight runs out.
Hopefully they got enough metal on them to do it.
Yeah. But then you have to take into account like Twinborn, like people like Wax and Wayne who have multiple abilities, and how that would play into things. I'm curious. I don't know. It would be interesting thing to see.
Maybe we'll see in the future, because it feels like with this book and like we're hearing about all the things, like there's some other governing force and stuff like that. I wonder if we'll actually get to see maybe like Allomancers go up against Radiants and stuff.
I'm sure we will. It definitely seems to be gearing up to that, especially because in the next chapter it becomes very obvious that Scadrial and Roshar have relations, and they're shaky at best. Is definitely what it seems like. It doesn't seem like I don't want to say they're not allies, but I definitely don't want to say they're buddy-buddy. Because several things are mentioned. So into 44, just a few things happen in this interaction. So first off, the Scadrians are pretty much only interested in Zellion. They say, "Have you sworn the oaths?" And so they know about the oaths. They know about the Knights Radiant. And he says, "No, but I have a blade." And they know what that means. They know that he has a shard blade. And so they say, "Are you a mercenary?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Okay, you're hired." Like, they don't ask anything else. The only thing they know is that he's a Roshar and he has a shard blade. He's hired. Like, those three things, just instant hired. And so there's a reputation there. So these Scadrians know how powerful a shard blade is. They know how quickly it can turn the tide of a battle. So there's that. And then also when they're asking, they're saying, have you taken the oaths? I want to get this exactly right. So Rosharan, have you said the oaths? No, Zellion lied. I'm a free man. I've got no part in the conflicts. I just want to keep my head down and stay alive. So, like, what the heck conflicts? Is it conflicts between Scadrians and Rosharans? Is it internal conflicts with the Knights?
Is it something completely different? Like, are they talking about fighting Odium or somewhere like that, or one of the other shards that are fighting with Odium?
It seems bigger though. I'm putting my money on it. Some sort of conflict between the Scadrians and the Rosharans, especially because when Zellion first sees, like, these are scientists. They're seeking to understand the various mysteries of the Cosmere, and this is exact quote now. And they were absolutely not, of course, an arm of the military working in secret to develop tech that would let Scadrial stay ahead in the increasingly dangerous arms race that currently consumed most of the developed planets. And so this has like a very like Cold War vibes.
Yeah,
where,
I'm still not quite convinced.
Like at the time in the Cold War in our own history, America and Russia were enemies, but there wasn't any open warfare. There was kind of some talks, but they were definitely seeing who could get the best weapons first. And we're definitely like threatening each other with those weapons. And so now we have these scientists, and it seems like there's, like it even says right here, that would let Scadrial stay ahead in the increasingly dangerous arms race that currently consumed most of the developed planets. Yeah. And so everyone's just like, it seems like I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of League of Nations, United Nations type thing that was kind of keeping everything loosely together, but at the same time, each planet is using its investiture, using its abilities to try to get ahead of the other ones. And I don't know if that means they're going to try to conquer. I don't know if that means that things are on the brink of a war. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, a Cosmere space battle would be freaking sick.
Yes.
Going back to what I said before, a spaceship that can fire a shard plate. Or a shard blade.
A shard bullet.
Forget it. Forget it. That thing would be freaking blockable. I don't even know how you would block it. You'd have to have like an investiture shield or something, an invested shield or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder. I still am not. I still don't think there's a Cold War type going on. I don't know what it is, because it does seem like maybe they're in competition because apparently the Scadrians are already ahead in the space race or whatever you want to call it, but everyone else is like right behind them, so they're trying to keep ahead. But the fact that these Scadrians didn't want to they didn't turn away Zellion. They were like, "Oh, you're a Rosharan, get in here!" Like they seemed that was way too buddy for me.
I don't know. I think you're wrong.
Good.
Because it says dangerous arms race, and so people are trying to develop the best weapons, and the only reason you need that is if you're preparing for war. I'm not saying they're going to go to war, but I am saying that everyone's ready for it, and I'm sure that things are kind of like, what's going to happen? Like, are we about to break into war?
All I'm saying
and they first asked, is he a mercenary? And the only reason they let him in is because he invoked some sort of greater law. And then they even mentioned, like, okay, we heard your case. We've done everything that required us by law. Get out.
Yeah, but that was after, like, they were talking to the...
They're talking to the
people
other people.
from Canticle. They still wanted Zellion on there.
Yeah, still only because he was a mercenary and he had a shard blade.
Yeah.
And they confirmed that he hadn't sworn the oaths.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Scadrial and Roshar are at war.
I don't think they're
enemies.
at war, but I don't think that they're buddy allies. I don't think that. I don't think they're buddy allies.
I was surprised that Zellion knew about their political movements, as he puts it. Like, he's like, oh, these were Timmy tellers.
Time tellers?
Oh, time tellers. They split up the word on the Kindles. I'm like, what the frick is it? They're time tellers, one of the factions among the many Scadrian political movements. So that really just kind of made me curious. Like, how long did Zellion sit in Scadrial? I mean, not sit, but it sounded like he was there for a while if he knew that kind of stuff, because...
It's another question that we need to ask Brandon.
Yeah.
Because, so he knew the political factions pretty intimately, at least enough to know who this faction was based on, they had a little metal thing on their face, and he was able to tell from that what political faction they were in. But also they were speaking Malwish, which Malwish, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, is the language of the people in the south of Scadrial, that island that when the Lord Ruler changed everything, he forgot about them kind of, and so changed their bodies to be able to withstand heat. And then when Sazed changed the world back, he also kind of forgot about them, and so he gave them so they were freezing to death, and so he gave them the patches or whatever the heck they were to allow them to do Farukami, essentially. And so I'm pretty sure they spoke Malwish. They were the Malwish people, and so they're speaking Malwish, and they call it the civilized tongue. And so it's pretty cool to see that influence, because at the end of Era 2, we kind of see the two nations beginning to mingle and start to have ambassadors, and there's definitely tensions there. But there's definitely tensions between the Malwish and the people that live in Elendel. But
you're saying that there was that tension in Era 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Era 2, because
Era 2.
Just because of everything that happened, the Malwish people were taken captive and tortured, and like, who the heck wouldn't be like, what the crap? Like, we came to America. I don't care if it was some nefarious group, but they were in America, so we hate Americans. So I can understand where the Malwish are coming from, but to have that conflict, to have that be their language, like, so either these are Malwish scientists or Scadrians have kind of united, and now they speak Malwish for some reason. I can see it going either way. Where was I going with this? Basically, all of this, I think, is setting up like a really cool interaction between the planets, and I'm also curious to see if this is still on a small scale, because you have people like who was that, the Ghost Bloods that could travel between different things, and like a small group of people know that they can go to different planets. And also the Ghost Bloods were on Scadrial. They helped Wax defeat his uncle, and what's her name? Ambition. Was it Ambition? What's the shard?
I want to say it was Ambition, yeah.
Ambition. And so the Ghost Bloods started like, so is it still small scale like that, where it's just a few people are traveling between planets, or is it like full on? I don't think so, because they say planetary agreements, and so it seems like things are like,
it seems like a bigger thing,
on, like Star Wars galaxy.
That's what
far,
it feels
far
like to
away.
me. Like it's Star Wars. Like it's a common thing for people to travel outside of their planet.
But basically, back to the story. You know, after we see all of this, and there's more we'll talk about in a minute, but through all of this conversation, the greater good and Rebecca, who also came down, are kind of like, what the heck is going on? And then they start to ask for help. They start to be like, will you help us? And the Scadrians are very callous and no uncertain terms say absolutely not. Like, we are not getting involved.
Yeah.
And Zellion tries to kind of debate them and appeal to their goodness, which we see they don't have. They're just they're the stereotypical scientists that are more often portrayed as evil scientists, where they just only care about research and knowledge and understanding, because they even say, like, we already have a few canticle people, like, I guess we could take a few more to study, but like we only need the Sun Hearts. And so
we haven't learned much about those guys. I wonder if they're held captive, like maybe that's someone the Cinder King gave them and they don't want to be with the Scadrians, or they were like, oh yeah, I'll come with you guys so I can get out this friggin' planet or something.
I don't know. I had some really nasty Nefarious vibes when they said that, the way that they mentioned it. Maybe I should read it. Let's see. Yeah. So we have a few of the locals already, the man said, to use as subjects in our research. We could use one or two more, I suppose, but that's it. And so just the way they talk, I don't know, maybe it was just me. I just got the vibe of they're kind of just like the scientists that are really cold and detached.
Yeah, it's like they're talking about guinea pigs and not people.
Like they don't view these. And even when they're talking, when Zellion's kind of like, these are people, that's a tyrant, like we should do something. And they're like, there's hundreds of planets out there that have these squabbling and they're all stupid. Like, why should we help? Like this, we're not going to do anything like this. No.
Yeah.
And
That really pissed me off, because we learned just before this that they have been trading with the Cinder King. He'll bring them Sun Hearts or something, and they'll give him technology or knowledge. So they're helping him to continue to be a tyrant and control the people of Canticle and overthrow them and kill them off so he can have his Sun Hearts and stuff. And yet they're like, oh, we're not going to help the people of Beacon, though, but they're helping destroy this planet. So they have a very skewed belief. I don't know if that's what you'd call it. The way of thinking and the way that they run their minds. It's like, you guys are cold SOBs and I hate you.
And they even mentioned, like, these people haven't figured out how to take advantage of their investiture. So they viewed it as they were getting Sun Hearts as valuable pieces of research and information, and in return we're giving pretty much nothing. Like, they gave it was a big deal for the Canticle people, but I don't think so much for the Scadrians. So they gave the Cinder King the ability to make Chard the Cinder Hearts, and they gave him the bracers that freeze them and control them. I don't know about control, but freeze them. And so I think to them, they're kind of like, who cares? But yeah, like when you actually look at what's happening, they're totally at fault here.
And I mean, like, if you remember how a Chard is made, he has to stab him with that. And, like,
basically kills them.
Did these Scadrians not know what it does? Because
they
you look at Elegy, and she's not Elegy anymore. Like,
yeah, I think they do know. I think that just...
So it's just...
These are definitely rotten people. They're not good
They're
people.
just as bad as this. Well, they're worse than the Cinder King, if you ask me.
They're not good people. And then we get some internal conflict in Zellion at this time, because Rebecca and the greater good pretty much give up at this point. They're like, we've been flying towards death for a long time, and we've been able to prolong it and evade it, but it's here. And they kind of accept that fate, and they tell Zellion, like, you stay here, we'll go back up, we'll accept our fate, and we'll die. And Zellion lets them leave. And it kind of seems like he's starting to go back to how it used to be, but it also seems like he's trying to convince himself. It doesn't seem like part of what it seems more like, instead of being like, yeah, sure, get the heck out of here, I try to warn you, you freaking idiots. It's more like, I don't even know how to articulate it, but basically he's trying to convince himself that he did everything he's supposed to. Like, I got them into the door, I tried to warn them, now they're going to die, like, why should I care? And he, like, sits down, and he's kind of depressed, and it seems pretty obvious. We're going to stop here on chapter 44, but it seems pretty obvious that he's not just going to sit there and watch them die. And some other interesting thing, I forgot to mention this, but the Scadrians have door.
Yes, I have that marked because I was like, there was a glowing jar, door they called it, a kind of pure investiture, which they could use to activate another skip, to escape this world, to run to another planet, just as he'd hoped. This is why he'd come. Like, that's part of it.
Yeah,
but I marked that because I was like, what the frick is a door?
Yeah, because that has very interesting to me, and I think has very wide cosmic implications. It makes me very glad that Brandon Sanderson's writing a second Elantris book. So for those who don't know, and maybe for those who do, a little refresher, the door is essentially the investiture power that Elantrians use, because there's Stormlight for Rosharans, there's whatever the heck happens when you eat metal in Scadrial. The door is what Elantrians access to do their magic. Like they draw Aeons, they draw Aeons, and then the door opens and flows through them to fulfill what they write. So they write like, heal this broken bone and stitch the wound, and then the door flows through them and does it. And apparently, like Elantrians...
So sorry. Does that kind of makes me think of the shades. Do you think it's similar to the shades that the canticle people are using? We're like, here's this diagram of a ship, and then they're just like, woo, there you go.
No,
not quite.
I would view it more as like almost more like traditional magic. Like if you do a spell, you have to be very specific in what you tell it to do, so it like does it.
Oh, okay.
Like if you say, shoot that, it could do a bunch of different things. Or you could like be more detailed and be like, I want you to use a firebolt, be concentrated, and do this and do this and this and this. Because when they draw Aeons, they can draw like a fire Aeon and like it'll create a little fireball. Or they can create a fire Aeon and do adders to it and do other things and create like an inferno.
Oh, okay.
And so it's more like how they direct the power with like Aeons, and like they draw it in the air. It's pretty cool. You should read the launches.
I will.
But yeah, so it's pretty cool that they have it there. So the wider there's a few wider cosmic connections here, I think. So one, how are the Elantrians playing in all of these interplanetary things? Because at least in Elantris where we read, they're definitely in that stage of a planet where they don't have any concept of life outside of their planet, and they don't even know that they're using investiture. They didn't even mention anything about shards. Like, it's just the Elantrians are magic. That's essentially what it is. And so they're very like far behind where a lot of these other planets are.
Like technologically.
I would say like more understanding of investiture in the world that.
Oh, really? They don't understand investiture that well.
They don't. I don't think they know that they're using investiture. They don't know that there's a shard that's created their planet, and that's where it's coming from. Whereas like in Rosharan, they're kind of starting to understand that. They understand the honor, who honor is, who cultivation is, and they're understanding what their role is, and kind of going that same thing with the Scadrians. They're kind of discovering, at least at the end of where the stories are currently. Elantris was like very similar to like Era 1 Mistborn, where it was just like all about what's going on. Like they're not wider things at all. And so like, where are they with that? Like, did people just come to that planet and just harvest Door and then leave, or are they Elantrians involved in all these interplanetary politics somehow?
The way that these Scadrians act, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow got like a secret ship or whatever they're on. What is the name of their planet, the Elantrian planet? Do you know?
That's probably been said, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, they probably got to Elantris or their planet and set up a secret base and kind of just did their sneaky little research, and they probably found a way to get their investiture and just...
Yeah.
Oh, they're not very smart. They don't know what's going on. Oh, well, bye.
But then there was also that member of the Ghost Bloods that was from Elantris.
Oh, that's right.
Well, I keep saying Elantris as if it's a planet. Elantris is a city.
Right.
But this person was from that world. But anyway.
And then they call them someone's called them, I don't know if it's been in a book, but they've called the Elantris people Elantrians.
Yeah. So
but I mean, that's like
Elantris.
Saying people from Atlantis are Atlanteans. Like, yeah. Well, they're from Atlantis.
Yeah, and the way it works is that only people that are within Elantris or within a certain area of Elantris can become Elantrians. And it's like random how it picks it. Like, you could be like just a normal person like me, and then I'll go to sleep, and then the next day you'll wake up and boom, you're an Elantrian. Like,
so it's like the magic randomly picks someone or something?
It seems random. At least we're understanding right now, our understanding of Elantris, it's completely random. Like,
so
like kids are chosen, people are either super old are chosen, young people, married people.
That's really interesting.
Like, they're just chosen, and they become like pretty close to immortal. Like, they live a really long time, and they become like pretty much like what you saw in the Mistborn Era 2. Like their skin changes, they get like white hair, and they.
For those people with the long eyebrows.
No, that's the alien. That's the alien.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I guess they have white hair too. But yeah, and then they're considered gods in the world of Elantris. Elantris.
Okay, so I mean, like the Elantrians are the only ones who are magical and can use investiture.
At least the door. I don't remember how the stamps play into it. I'll have to reread Emperor's Soul, but the stamps are another magic type system on.
They don't use that.
Elantris. The Elantrians don't use stamps.
Okay.
They use the door.
Wait, so that Ghostblood member lady, was she Elantrian or was she whoever uses the stamps?
She wasn't Elantrian because what she did, because how the stamps work, that I remember, if I remember correctly, is you stamp and you can change almost like soul casting, like you can kind of manipulate and change the soul of things. And so when she changed herself to an Elantrian, she changed her circumstance and soul as if she had been chosen to be an Elantrian. So she almost like changed her path or something, or past. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the other really big implication, is in Stormlight. We remember that the Ghostbloods, Mraize specifically, his biggest purpose for being on Roshar, it seems, is he's trying to monetize investiture. He's trying to transport it, because he mentions that if you have investiture, you can't take it too far away from its point of origin, is in its pure form. But
so do you think the door that the Scadrians had?
The door is like it's on Canticle.
Yeah.
It's not on Elantris.
It's super far away.
So it's far away. So that's really cool. But he's trying to do that with Stormlight. And he's making it seem like he's the only one. He's like really close to being able to do it. It's going to be like revolutionary. He's going to become like a trillionaire. But now they're using door. They're not using Stormlight. And so, one, did he fail? Like, you can't transport Stormlight the way he wanted to.
Yeah, maybe not.
And then two, if you can't transport Stormlight away, because he says, like, when you have it in a thing and you're carrying it, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier the further away from Roshar you get. And so, that's another implication that I just now thought of, is how do knights fight out off of Roshar, off planet?
I would something to do with the BEUs is what I would say. Whatever.
But how? Because they're not like freaking Nomad, Zigzil. What the hell? Zellion. Because he's not a Night Radiant anymore. Night Radiants need to consume and inhale Stormlight, whereas Scadrians, they just need to find any dang metal. Like, they could find steel anywhere and they can push.
They had to refine it somehow, didn't they? Though.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't there a part in where Kelsier like shaves off steel from a iron bar and uses it, and same thing with Vin. And there's like traces of it in the water, and that's how she's able to use it.
Oh well, yeah. I just thought it would.
I mean, definitely for it to be used at its best, it has to be like refined and stuff. But
I don't know. No, there's like this book is kind of telling us like there is a way, but we don't know what it is yet.
So
this is really weird. It's like we went from like the caveman age into farther into than our technological advances is right now, to like Star Wars age, and suddenly we need the middle story. That's what it feels like to me.
Oh, I'm freaking out. I can't wait for Stormlight 5. I'm like so excited.
I'm
just
way
to see what
excited
happens with Sigzil. Like, I care about the rest of the people, obviously.
But now it's like we got this whole
like,
huge story.
I'm going to be paying special attention to Sigzil. Like, what's going on with that guy? But yeah, that takes us down to 44. We're basically... So right now, Zellion's faced with a choice. Does he steal the door and use it to skip off the planet and escape the Dream Watch? Or does he just stay on as a mercenary and travel with these people, which seems very unlikely? Or is he going to do something to try to save the Beaconites? So that's where we're at. So the very Cosmere-heavy chapters, even though there's just a few things mentioned, there's like implications that are just insane, and I'm really excited for the future of the Cosmere. This seems great.
It's been really good.
Awesome.
I'm on the same boat as you. I'm super excited for Stormlight 5. I'm sad and stressed, maybe anxious a little, I guess, is more accurate, that Stormlight 6 is going to take 10 years. That really sucks, but I hope that the reason it's going to take 10 years is not because he doesn't want to write it for 10 years. It's just because he's going to do the laundry and stuff. He's going to write Mistborn Era 3. And maybe all those things are just going to add more to the story. And by the time Stormlight 6 comes around, we're like, wait a minute, we need Mistborn Era 4 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that it's definitely going to come to a conflict head between the Scadrians and someone else. I think it's either going to be that, or a bunch of planets are going to have to ally together to defeat Odium. Or maybe that's how it starts. They all ally together to defeat Odium, just like the United Nations started to defeat Hitler after Hitler was defeated. I wonder if it's going to be like a similar type of situation.
Maybe.
That's why I'm going Cold War. I am getting serious Cold War vibes.
I hope it's not, because I don't want to see the Scadrians and the Rosharans fight. That would probably be super cool. But I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit off camera. Like, there's not 100% good Rosharans or 100% good Scadrians. It's like they're a big world. There's good Scadrians and there's not so good Scadrians, and there's bad Scadrians. Same with Roshar.
Like there's going to be an Alethi warship that is going to attack someone and start something.
They already do a ship.
Like
in
the
Stormlight
Heir of
5,
Sadius that we didn't know about. To start some shit. Or like Amaram type of person is going to start something.
Yeah. I wonder.
Or even like Wax's uncle who was starting all these issues. Like, there's going to be people like that are going to pit the planets against each other.
Yeah, I can see that happening. But I would love it so much to see maybe Knights Radiant with I'm guessing they won't have Mistborns. I don't think we'll see Mistborns in Era 3, since Era 2, the most crazy thing was to see people with Twinborns. But maybe not, because they had at the end they had all those people who were getting other powers. Maybe they're going to find a way to just make people Mistborns, and maybe they'll be born or something. Yeah. Anyway, all I'm saying is I would think it'd be super cool to see Allomancers team up with Radiants to fight maybe other Allomancers and the Fused or something. And if this is turning into more of a Cold War type stuff.
Anyway, good stuff from Sunlit Man. Next
yeah.
week, well, I'm sure we're getting close to the finish here.
Oh man, next week's gonna be crazy, I think.
Definitely some good things coming up. We'll see what happens with the Beaconites. We'll see if there's
any predictions.
I think he's gonna try to save the Beaconites.
I think that definitely seems obvious. I think.
He's gonna go with.
Since his whole inner conflict this entire time was I should just need to get out of here, but then he helps him. But man, I just need to get out of here. Oh crap! Now the Night Brigade is here. I just need help. So I don't think he's gonna stay with the Scadrians at all. But I don't see how this could not happen. But it's kind of this. I'm going super broad, but they're gonna get rid of the Cinder King one way or another.
Hopefully that guy.
Just the main question is how, which I don't have any idea.
Yeah,
maybe Zellion will just he'll throw his spear and go spear the Cinder King. That'd be awesome.
I wanted him to grab the Cinder King Cinderheart and just suck all his investiture out.
That'd be sweet too. I still think maybe we might see something of the Cinder King taking Zellion's heat now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But maybe if he gets his armor, that won't be a problem at all.
Yeah, I won't be able to touch him through the armor. Okay, bye. Just kidding.
Just kidding.
That's everything I have to talk about.
What did you say? Just kidding. If we're saying goodbye.
You don't even care. I'm packing up my stuff. Goodbye.
We'll see you all in the next episode.
It's over.